Hallucination Sorceress, or Hallucination Igniter Sorceress I should say, has become a whole lot more popular over the last few days because of what happened in the balance patch. If you don't know what happened to the Hallucination Relic set, it's very simple. They increased the 6 set effect from 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and they've made it so that you now only need hits instead of crits to keep the buff active. So in other words, it's super easy to have full uptime on this relic set now, even if your class is lacking a bit in the crit department. And well, Sorceress is one of those classes that is lacking in the crit department. Now initially I didn't really plan on changing my Nightmare Sorceress, because to play Hallucination to the best of your ability, then you'd need new tripods and one new engraving. But when I went to do my weekly clown raid, I had no crit synergies in my team, just like the week before, and I remember how miserable my arcane ruptures were because of my non-existent crit rate. So I decided to just give it a try and see that with just changing the relic set and some tripods if it would be serviceable. And well, it is. Is it as strong as if it were to change engravings? No, but it's not like you're going to be getting that much more damage out of it that it is worth investing thousands of gold into it either, but that's just my opinion. If you want to spend gold on a side grade, then that is totally up to you. The engraving that I'm talking about here is Keen Blunt replacing Cursed Doll, because with Hallucination, Keen Blunt does become a viable engraving, and if you don't like running the double negative engraving combo of Grudge and Cursed Doll, then that alone might be a reason as to why you might want to change your engravings around. But I personally don't want to invest a lot of money to switch Cursed Doll with Keen Blunt, so the only thing that I changed were the mana tripods on my 3 big spells: Doomsday, Explosion and Punishing Strike. For Punishing Strike, you're not really losing damage, it's just a reduced AoE, and while Doomsday and Explosion lose some damage, it's not the end of the world, and you really do need these mana tripods to not run into mana issues, because Nightmare was kind of helping you with those. And now that we have the new tripod system, it's also very easy to level up these mana tripods and switch between those and the damage ones in case you want to swap between Hallucination and Nightmare on a party composition basis. So why would you want to switch to Hallucination? Well, very simple, to have a more consistent crit rate. There are other options if you want more crit rate on Sorceress, but they aren't really ideal. Precise Dagger comes with the trade-off that you're losing crit damage, and Adrenaline isn't that great either. Sure, you can keep it up by using Inferno and Blaze when you have a full uptime scenario, but if you're coming off of downtime, it's kind of clunky to build up the full stacks of Adrenaline before going into Arcane Rupture, whereas otherwise you can just send your Doomsday straight away without having to build up all of those stacks. So Hallucination is then a really good option now to improve your crit rate. It's also a great option for those that struggle to navigate Nightmare correctly, because you never want to dip into the mana recovery state, especially not when mid-burst, because then you lose out on the majority of the damage that the relic set is providing you. Now, even if you're used to playing Nightmare correctly, the juicy crit rate buff might be very tempting, especially when playing in a group that has no crit synergies. Nightmare will still give you the highest potential damage, but you will require crit synergies, and because you can't rely on them being present in your party or them being used when you need them, mainly talking about the bigger crit synergies here that are provided by a Striker and a Glavier in this case, Hallucination is just a more consistent alternative. Yes, your Doomsdays aren't going to be hitting as hard as they would under Nightmare, but at least they will crit nearly every time, and you can see in the gameplay in the background that they still do a fair amount of damage as well, and this is even without having a Yearning support in my party, so normally they'd be doing even more damage than what they are doing in the footage, so TLDR. While Nightmare is still higher potential damage, you require team coordination to pull off said high damage because you require crit synergies to be used when you need them, whereas Hallucination is lower potential damage, but you're not as reliant on your team to play around you, and you will have a more consistent damage output. If you're looking to just try it out, but you don't want to invest gold into changing around your engravings and such, then honestly all you need to do is switch out the 3 mana tripods that I talked about earlier, and it's perfectly playable. If they're not leveled yet, then you might need to use mana food, but honestly I haven't really run into any mana issues, especially when playing with a support. So give it a try if you want to see what it's all about, and then you can make the decision if you want to stick with it, if you maybe want to replace that Cursed Doll with Keen Blunt, or if you'd rather stick to your current Nightmare build and maybe switch to Hallucination when you notice that you have no crit synergies in your party. The choice is all up to you. And that is pretty much everything that I had to say, so I want to thank you for watching, I want to thank my Patreons for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.